In all four of my food forests, I started out with that right there. Just a plain old lawn with weeds. Hello everybody and welcome back to the garden. Nick again here, and this is part 2 of my video series on the Wood Wide Web. So yes, even this back here in my young food forest that I just started earlier this year, when we arrived at this location and bought this property, it was just all lawn that looked just like the front yard I was just showing you. And now we're well along the process of converting it over to a food forest environment. In that lawn, we don't really have much of a mycorrhizal fungi network, the Wood Wide Web. It's not there much at all. I think there are some mycorrhizal fungi associated with some grasses and the weeds, but not much. So how do we change that? How do we fix it? Because all of these trees, these fruit trees and these other trees, really depend on that to thrive and to do their best. Well, mulch helps, but there's times when you don't want to use mulch. As we were talking about in the first part 1 of the Wood Wide Web, the saprophytic fungi break down the dead materials like mulch and logs and sticks and leaves. But if you were to, for example, you know, I've been busy getting plants to plant in the ground, but this area back here mostly I don't have enough plants yet. And if I was to just cover all of this with mulch, solid, that'd be a great environment for the saprophytic fungi, all right. They would be tearing that down, but what would be missing in that scenario? There wouldn't be any sugars being pumped into the ground, because without the green plants, you're not producing sugars, and you're not encouraging the growth of the mycorrhizal network. But all you're doing is providing material for the saprophytic fungi. Now they're going to break down that mulch, and they're going to need every bit of nitrogen they can find, and they're going to use it all up. There won't be any nitrogen left to help grow plants. And this is well known. People have documented this before. If you wait a very long time, eventually they run out of fresh wood to eat, and eventually it becomes a more rich and the fertility gets better eventually, but you might have to wait 2 or 3 years. So until I get a good number of plants to plant in here so that I'm capturing the sunlight and creating those sugars, I really don't want to cover all this yet with a bunch of mulch. I do put some mulch, like for example, there's a little mulch that I put right around my chestnut tree here. But for the most part, at this point, I'd rather have the sugars going into the ground. That's what all these green plants do for me. And then also, most of my food forest trees and shrubs are fruit and berry producing. So they need that arbuscular mycorrhizal, that AM network. When we bought this property, we just had the lawn here and these big trees, these big oak trees. Those are live oaks, and then there's some sand live oaks right over there. And so these oak trees, they were already on their own network, that ectomycorrhizal network. So I planted my chestnut trees back here. So they're going to be happy to tie in to the EM network with the oak trees. Oh, look at that. I just happened to run into a nice big fat caterpillar right there. And he's fine. We're into middle of November now. He can live there and eat those leaves if he wants. It won't hurt a thing. Let's see, but yeah, so the oak trees and these chestnut trees, and then this one longleaf pine tree here, they'll all share that EM network together. But all the rest of my plants, and I've got several hundred here, I'm working with about a little over 100 species and multiples of almost all of them. So I don't know how I've got 400 or 500 plants here maybe. And all except for these 4 species, the live oak, sand live oak, the chestnut, and the pine. Those are the only ones on the EM network. All the rest of them need to get on the AM network. And if I cover everything solid with mulch, there's not a whole lot of sugar going into the ground to support an AM network. So you're really at some point you're going to be wanting to throw some mulch in, but in the beginning, you want to just let your grass and weeds grow so that you're pumping sugars into the soil. Right here with these figs, I've mulched it pretty well with logs and mulch. Actually, figs are kind of a special case. They don't really associate a whole lot with mycorrhizal. They're one of the few plants that don't. Figs just happen to have a really good root network that goes very far and wide away from the main trunk of the tree, and they don't like competition. They have very shallow roots, and so they just like a lot of mulch. So yeah, I've mulched this area good for them. But like some of these others, like these are my thornless blackberries, I mulched it pretty good. So what you have now is the saprophytic fungi working on breaking down all this dead biomass. At the same time, you have these green leaves of these thornless blackberries, and they're pumping sugars into the ground with their roots. So hopefully the AM mycorrhizal network will get going, connecting these blackberries together and connecting them with, this plum tree, for example, and all these other trees. We've got the salt bush, the native salt bush, and the native winged sumac. And getting these native plants in here is a really good idea because this is Walters viburnum. Getting these native plants in here is a great idea because the AM network associated with their roots now is right in close proximity with these blackberries. Hopefully they can get it all tied in together. To me, that's the idea. When you have something to plant, it's a good idea to mulch right around it, just to suppress weeds a little bit and keep them off of it so that it's not too wet, and so it doesn't form fungi and mold right on the trunk of the base of the plant itself. I'm gonna keep that clear and clean. But other than that, it's okay to have a lot of green weeds, grass, whatever. Anything that pumps sugars into the soil is a good thing for that network. There's another example of something on the AM network is the American beautyberry. Mulberries would also share in on that, and loquats. Look at loquat right there, and others. So getting back, here's an example where we're starting to mulch it a lot more because we've got it planted out the way we want it. We've got a lot of our plants in here. We'll go ahead and mulch it because we've got a lot of big green leaves to pump sugar into the ground. I mean, that's the main thing to me it just doesn't make a lot of sense to mulch a large area before you have the plants ready to go into it. I mean, basically what you're doing if you do that is you're saying, okay, that area is going to be depleted of nitrogen, and it's not going to really be a good area to grow for a while. If you can simultaneously get a bunch of big green trees and plants, now this is what I did right here. I mulched this whole area right here pretty solid. But at the same time, I planted all these really fast growing tropical plants. So I'm pumping a lot of sugar into this ground at the same time that I'm supporting the saprophytic fungi that are feeding on the dead mulch and other materials. So this is a very rapid, you know, forest succession that's going on here. So we're forest succession proceeds on its own, but it's relatively slow. And with a food forest, what we want to do is speed it up. And basically the way to do that is throw lots of green, fast-growing plants into the ground and lots of mulch, both at the same time. And that way you support everything simultaneously. When you don't have enough plants yet, it's okay to leave the grass and the weeds. And to me, the mulch is best used where you have big green plants growing. So that's what I do. As I get more plants to put in the ground, I get more mulch to put around them. And until then, I just let the natural process of succession happen. And that's what happens when you just let the grass and the weeds go. All right, well, that wraps it up then. I hope that made sense. This process works great for me. This is my 4th food forest. And, you know, they say in year 1, it sleeps, and in year 2, it creeps, and in year 3, it leaps. And I have found that absolutely to be the case. By year 3, everything's just exploding with growth. And I suspect that has a lot to do with the fact that the mycorrhizal network is all linked up and starting to really hum by year 3. Okay, folks, that's all for today. Tune in next time, and thanks for joining the channel. Like and subscribe if you would, and support the channel. I sure appreciate it. Okay, y'all, take care, and happy gardening.